Hi, my name is Kurt Lammy. I am the pastor at St Paul Lutheran Church on Dogleg Road in Dayton, Ohio. And I'd like to take a moment today to think with you about the importance of waiting. Now, I don't think any of us enjoy waiting. But what I want us to think about is why waiting is actually important. Now, I'm not talking about just delayed gratification. I'm talking about actually waiting. Here's what I mean. Think about some situation where you have to wait. Maybe you're in a waiting room, waiting for your turn to see the doctor. Maybe you're waiting for your kids to come out of school and you're just sitting there in the pickup line. Maybe you're waiting for your show to come back on when there's commercials, if it's live TV and you can't skip over them. There are all kinds of moments in life where we just have to wait. Now, in those moments, what do most of us do? We probably pull out our phones and start playing. Play a game, we surf the net, we check mail, whatever, stuff like that. We use technology to kill time. I would like to encourage you, if you find yourself in a moment when you have to wait for something, don't pull out your phone. Just wait. I know it's hard. I know it can be boring, but wait. Why? Because in that stillness, when you're just there and you can't move on to the next thing, listen for God. Think about the story of Elijah in 1 Kings 19. In 1 Kings 18, Elijah had just defeated the priests of Baal in this little showdown that they had, and Elijah was feeling great. Well, at the start of the next chapter, Jezebel wants to kill Elijah for what he did to those prophets, those priests. And so now Elijah has hit bottom, and he doesn't think things are going well. He thinks everybody's out to get him, and so he goes and he hides in a cave. Things just are not looking good for him. He ends up just waiting in the cave, and he thinks that he's just waiting to die. Then God comes to him and says, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Elijah then tells God the story about how everybody's after me, I'm the only one left, nobody wants to listen to your message, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then God tells Elijah basically to listen. All of a sudden, there's an earthquake and a fire and a flood, all of these horrible things happening in the world, but God wasn't in any of them. You know the horrible things in the world. You've watched the news. You know what's going on. But then after those things, when Elijah was just waiting for something to happen, then he heard God in the sound of sheer silence. Or as some translations say, in that still small voice. If Elijah had a phone that he could pull out of his pocket and play with, he probably would have ignored the sound of God's voice. He would have just been killing time and trying to numb his sense of waiting. But then he listened to God. And God gave him a message about what he was supposed to do next, and that message did not say, "Give up." He told Elijah to keep going. Sometimes when we listen for God's voice, we expect it to be something big and booming and obvious. It's not always that way. It can be this still small voice, this sound of sheer silence, this thing that we actually have to listen to. And we can't listen if we're being totally distracted by our phones. So next time you are in a situation of just waiting, when you can't move on to the next checkout line, or your kid hasn't shown up from school yet, or it's not your turn to see the doctor, whatever it is, when you're just stuck waiting in that moment, leave your phone in your pocket and just listen for God. Listen for God's voice in that silence and see what God is telling you. Because you never know what God's going to say. And it's really helpful to listen. Please leave a comment to this video and let me know how you deal with waiting and if you've ever heard God speak to you in that sound of sheer silence. Thanks for watching.